From Central Indiana's #1 news source, this is Fox 59 Tonight.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Fox 59 Tonight. I'm Cameron Riddle. Thank you for downloading our new smart TV app. You see that logo right there. Look for the Fox 59 Now app on your Apple TV, Roku TV, Fire TV, and now on Samsung. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss any of the conversations that we have here every night at 8 o'clock on Fox 59 Tonight. On this edition, we will be talking about the biggest story that has been happening in Indianapolis since Saturday morning, and that involves Fox News commentator, Fox Sports commentator, and former quarterback Mark Sanchez, who was here in Indianapolis this weekend to be the lead commentator on Fox Sports for the Colts versus Raiders game. And while that game in itself was a success, the headline that everybody is talking about is the commentator, Mark Sanchez, who on early Saturday morning, as the weekend began, was involved in what was first reported multiple different ways, but we now know was a stabbing. The story that was reported Saturday morning is different from the version of the story that was reported on Sunday, and very different from the story with all the details that came out on Monday. Two people who were on top of this thing the entire time here at Fox 59 and CBS 4 are in our studio to walk us through everything that happened. Fox 59 legendary and lead reporter Russ McQuaid, as well as CBS 4 weekend anchor Max Lewis. Gentlemen, thank you for all your hard work over the past couple of days. Your work has been talked about around the country as this story continues to still bring new details that you guys are working on even today. Russ, I guess we'll start with you on the details of what happened on Saturday morning, just around 12:30.
It's about 12:30, and we became aware of this in the newsroom. We sent a photographer down to 300 block of West Washington Street. There's an alley there. There had been a report of a fight. Perhaps it first came out as a shooting. A couple people injured. We shot video of that as the hours went on. It was about 12 hours later, at about 12:45 Saturday afternoon, that I got the report that it involved Mark Sanchez, former NFL quarterback. I was quickly able to access a police report that gave us more details, forwarded that on to the newsroom, and that's where the ball started rolling, where we determined that the former NFL quarterback who was in town to do the Colts-Raiders game for Fox Sports, Mark Sanchez, had been involved in some sort of incident in the alley in between the Westin and Marriott hotels downtown near the convention center, and had been stabbed in the chest.
That story, as reported Saturday morning, was then very different from Sunday. In between all that, before the facts came out, there was a lot of chatter, especially from politicians, from former radio show hosts and people online who were blaming this on Indianapolis residents causing crime, that you can't come to Indianapolis without walking in what's probably the safest part of downtown by the State House. Lots of tweets were deleted from the governor and a number of different people. How did everybody get this story so wrong Saturday morning to where it was being reported, at least online, that this was a case of either kids in Indianapolis or just bad people in Indianapolis attacking, or, as I saw one tweet say, robbing Mark Sanchez? None of that happened.
Well, Max Lewis was in here during the afternoon, Saturday afternoon, when it all became apparent. So Max was obviously in touch with our reporter in the field. He can give you an update on basically how we reported it cautiously as the Saturday afternoon and Saturday evening progressed, even to the fact that we knew who the other person involved, the truck driver, was. Max?
Yeah, well, and I think it started out, the headline comes out, Mark Sanchez, stabbed in Indianapolis. People automatically think, oh, well, there's no way he was doing anything wrong. He must have just, been walking home from a restaurant or something and was attacked by, whoever, some, homeless person, criminal, you never know. But then Russ ended up getting that police report that had the information that suggested that Sanchez was actually the aggressor in the incident. So we began reporting that in spite of some huge personalities, Adam Schefter from ESPN being one of them, saying that he was robbed. And so, we caught a lot of flack for that also. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
people were not very happy with us, suggesting that Mr. Sanchez was the aggressor, even though we had, very good sources and very good information that said that that was actually the case. And of course, it turned out to be the case that Saturday afternoon when IMPD announced that they had arrested Sanchez in the incident. So, yeah, a lot of politicians sort of jumped on the bandwagon, jumped the gun, saying, how horrible downtown Indianapolis is, because that's a huge talking point. Crime is obviously an issue that people care about, and it's a problem. But the politicians were using it as a sort of a talking point and trying to prove the point that Indianapolis is completely unsafe and nobody can visit. And obviously, they now have egg on their face because Sanchez did end up being the alleged aggressor in the incident.
Some of those politicians were Governor Mike Brown, who tweeted and then deleted this saying, "I've been clear." This is actually quoting the Fox 59 story on Twitter. He takes that tweet or X post and says, "I've been clear. City leaders must do their job and hold criminals accountable. When Indianapolis headlines national news for the lack of public safety, it hurts our city and state. Hoosiers deserve better. Praying for the recovery of Mark Sanchez." Tony Katz, local radio host and national radio host based here in Indianapolis, wrote in a statement, quoting a statement from the mayor, "The city is violent and dangerous, and you do nothing about it day after day. Neither does the Indy Council. Save your statements. Hoosiers don't believe you." And it got even more heated, which people are still talking about today, from Dan Dockich, former local radio host and popular person online. He said Sanchez or anyone being stabbed downtown Indy should not be surprised. We have a ton of fatherless and armed African American kids descending on downtown Indy every weekend. If that offends you, F off, as the chief of police Bailey and Reverend Harrison have told you this. Now, these tweets were all coming out midday Saturday. How soon was it for you guys, as you're working this, did it seem like there started to be two different stories being told? Did you guys have a good, from the beginning, did you think, or have a good inclination that it was Mark Sanchez as the aggressor, or did you guys also not know yet?
No, I knew it was Mark Sanchez was the aggressor. I'd been talking to sources. I'd looked at information all Saturday afternoon going into Saturday evening. I made not only my producers and my news director aware of that, but reconfirming it with my sources. So I had a pretty good idea of it. As Max can attest, the disadvantage we are at, as opposed to the people that you have quoted there, is we actually leave the building, go out in the streets, talk to people, and figure things out without jumping to conclusions, and we're very cautious about it. And as it turns out, as the weekend evolved, our storyline and our facts were accurate and ahead of everybody else on this, while other people were left to jump to conclusions and then forced to backtrack, which I can guarantee you 20 minutes from now, nobody will remember that they were wrong,
Mm-hmm.
because they will move on to their next outrageous stereotype and comment and probably bash people like me for saying so.
Max, how was it for you? Again, you guys are and you're reporting something the same way the entire time. Where did this narrative start to come in, and where did it come from that this was Mark Sanchez being attacked on the street?
Yeah, I mean, we were very consistent on the facts and what was true. I mean, Russ got the initial, report from the scene that turned out that was accurate. And that was what we reported, and that's what we were sticking with. And we had confirmed that, through multiple sources as well. So, everybody else, all those people are talking heads, and that's what their job is, to just, comment on whatever or say the outrageous things, to draw up, ire and anger on the internet. And that's generally what their goal is and their job is. That is not our job. Our job is to report what's going on, and we did that, and we were right. And so I think it serves as a lesson to everybody that you should maybe tune out the talking heads and pay attention more to the journalists to get an actual idea of what happened, because they just essentially pulled that out of thin air and made it up.
Well, you guys were leading on this all weekend, and one way that you were leading was showing what happened. As you said, you were out making phone calls. We're on the streets. We're getting the facts. One of the things that became very obvious that Mark Sanchez was the aggressor, hence why he is now this morning, first over the weekend charged, and now charged with a felony as the work week begins. Part of that had a lot to do with the pictures that came out. Max, this was one that you uncovered, and your work has been all over the nation this morning. Saturday morning, again, reported one way. I did watch the 6 o'clock news on Saturday night, so I saw your guys' coverage of what you had. And then late that night is when you got pictures, which gave a lot of people, confirmation or reassurance that, oh, that's why Mark Sanchez is being charged, because of pictures like this that Max was the first to obtain. This is the gentleman, the 69-year-old who was in that alley just after midnight picking up grease from a local restaurant when, as it's reported, he comes into contact with Mark Sanchez. At first tries to ward him off with pepper spray and eventually pulls out a knife, injuring both of them. This 69-year-old man, his face is now being shown, as his attorney has now been speaking with national media. We didn't show his identity at the request of his family over the weekend, but Max, talk to us about the process of getting these pictures that even the one on the left shows a very deep wound to this man's face.
Yeah, they're horrible pictures. They are okay with it. So, but we had his name. I was able to track down his wife and just sent her a text message and said, "Hey, here's who I am. We're working on this, and I'd like to talk to you guys if possible." I ended up getting a text message back from her at like 1 a.m. on Sunday, basically saying thanks for reaching out and all that kind of stuff, and we'll be in touch with you. Well, Sunday morning-ish, mid-morning, I got a text from her again saying, "Hey, I'd like to send you these pictures, but I, want his identity blacked out and all this kind of stuff. We don't want his name out there at this point." And so I said, okay, and she sent me those pictures, and there we go. And we put them on TV, put them on the internet, and the family trusted us to get them first and to put them first and put them out there. And I think the pictures really showed people sort of what happened. I don't think nobody really. The visuals are so important. Nobody has a real idea of what exactly happened in that alley until they see that picture of Mr. Toll is his name, and they see how badly he was hurt in this attack, and they realize how serious it was.
The journalism from both of you caused one charges in the first place, I believe, when he was charged with misdemeanors. Everyone is talking online, they're saying how he's obviously not the aggressor if there is video that shows police got some kind of video, got surveillance video, which we'll show here. But Russ, talk to us about that. What happened in that alley that gave police the indication that, hold on, this guy isn't just the victim, and Mark Sanchez isn't just the victim. He is the aggressor, and therefore we need to charge him at least with the misdemeanor. They hadn't seen the pictures yet.
Saturday afternoon, I had a source indicate to me what the security video in the alley showed. The quote was Mark Sanchez running wind sprints, acting erratically, and getting into a dispute as the truck driver pulls up and parks his truck at a loading dock. Now, this is a very big, wide alley. This isn't one of those tiny, narrow alleys towards the core of the city or the core of downtown. So, I mean, there was enough room to get around.
A slight fact, just to give people a little context, Indianapolis alleys are actually streets. And so some of them are,
that's true.
Some of them actually are quite large that there would be enough room. Right. The whole history lesson on that. But in this, what is actually a street, As you say, there's plenty of room.
Oh, yeah. Then, as I reported on Saturday, and I guess my Facebook post, at that point Saturday, they had, at least during the afternoon, they had Mr. Toll's account, and I was being told that IMPD was looking at the security video, which was confirming Mr. Toll's account of this. Sunday afternoon, about 12:20, is when I make my way down to Loft Miller's Pub, which is the original address on the call, because that's where Sanchez got to. I had a chance to talk to the bar manager, Scott Bennett. He said, yeah, I was closing up for the night. About 12:30, a guy starts banging on my window. So I bring him in. He's bleeding from the right chest and abdomen. I put him down on the floor. I get some bar towels. We soak him up, turn him over to EMS and IMPD. He told me he thought he'd been shot, but he didn't know what had happened to him. And I couldn't get his name out of him. I couldn't detect if there was any intoxication. Now, Mr. Toll, in his account to officers originally that night, said Mark Sanchez had slurred speech and smelled of alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
The bar manager said, I didn't pick that up from him, but I wasn't looking for that. I was trying to keep him from bleeding out. In the short PC with the short statement that Sanchez gave when officers first arrived on the scene, he said he didn't remember anything except banging on a window. And then, of course, we got the video that shows his handprints still on the window of Loft Miller's Pub. So we were able to get that information, confirm that. And at the same time, Sunday afternoon, I'm texting Jim Voiles, the noted Indianapolis defense attorney. If you're in deep trouble, you're calling Jim Voiles. Worked for Jim Irsay at the Colts. And Voiles did confirm for me that he had been contacted to represent Mark Sanchez.
We've got some surveillance video here that was apparently first obtained by the New York Post. This is what are we looking at here, Joe?
You're looking at Mark Sanchez coming out of that alley. If you look down to his lower right hand, you can see his left hand covering up a big blood spot there in his and he's, of course, the man's been stabbed. I imagine you're going to stagger a little bit, not being too good a shape, but you can just see the stab wounds there on his shirt as he's coming up the alley. He's across the street from the State House now. He's headed towards a pizza shop, a Subway, and eventually will make his way to Loft Miller's Pub, where he bangs on the window to seek help.
Is there, and as you can see the time there, this is just after 12:30, right at 12:30 on Saturday morning. How do we know who originally had the knife? Because both of these gentlemen, he's got stab wounds. He's got stab wounds to the face cuts. Who had the knife? Do we know?
Told police he had the knife. First, he pulled pepper spray that seemed to have only a minimal effect. Sanchez wiped his eyes, came back at him again. This involved, according to Toll and people that have seen the videotape, 2 or 3 runs, chases around the parked truck. Sanchez trying to get into the cab of the truck. Sanchez allegedly telling Toll, I'm with the manager, or I've spoken to the manager of the Marriott. You're not supposed to be here right now. Toll saying, look, I'm trying to get a hold of security or a manager to find out what you're talking about. One witness said that he witnessed both Toll and Sanchez holding their cell phones up towards each other as if they were taping each other with their video function, which IMPD did seize the devices of both people to compare, because there was really only one eyewitness to this, and he only saw part of the incident. And that was somebody who was downtown to pick up his son, and he said he looked down the alley and saw what looked like to be 2 men arguing. So,
surveillance videos out. Pictures come out that Max has Sunday afternoon. What happens after that? What is the reaction that you guys are now getting, where everybody's essentially been telling you that you're wrong for the past 24 plus hours? What reaction did you get? And then we'll get into what happened on Monday, as after those pictures were aired here on Fox 59 and CBS 4, felony charges were announced. What happened Sunday afternoon?
Well, Max was inside the building. Well, I was inside. I was here too, as a matter of fact. But Max was inside the building and fielding a lot of the decision-making phone calls that were being passed around between the networks and our management.
Yeah, so basically, once these pictures come out, on Sunday morning, the prosecutor announces that he's charging Sanchez with, 3 misdemeanor charges, assault and some other ones, but they're they're misdemeanors. They're relatively minor, when you in the court system.
And just to add, that happened. He sent that out at 8:40 Sunday morning is when we found out there would be misdemeanor charges. Your pictures hadn't hit the air yet.
Correct. Very early Sunday morning. The pictures had not come out yet. Pictures came out midday, maybe around a little after 1 o'clock, I think it was. And, from every indication that we have, those pictures may have sort of changed the tide of how this thing was going, because they really showed how badly Mr. Toll was hurt in this incident. We're still unclear exactly on how he was injured, how he got that gash to his face, whether it was, during a struggle with the knife. Also in the PC, it said that Mr. Sanchez pushed him pretty hard into a dumpster, into a pile of wooden pallets. So I don't know if he was cut in that way. That's sort of still unclear at this point. But anyways, the pictures came out. They look really bad. And everybody online, at least, I'm reading comments saying, how is Sanchez only facing misdemeanor charges? Prosecutor Ryan Mears, decided that more charges were appropriate, and he added that felony battery resulting in serious bodily injury charge. Notably, the only difference in the probable cause affidavit from Sunday morning, from the misdemeanor charges, and the Monday morning one of the felony charge, is one line, basically, where they asked Mr. Toll what his pain level was, and he said at one point it reached a 10 out of 10. And from an attorney that Russ had spoken with yesterday, extreme pain is one of the factors that can be used in order to charge that felony battery resulting in serious bodily injury. So that was the only difference between the two PCs that we could find, was that one line about Mr. Toll's pain level, and that prompted that felony charge.
Now, quite often what you'll find is, as I was explaining to Max over the weekend, it's easier to start at a lower misdemeanor and then bump it up to a felony, as opposed to overcharge at the felony, not be able to make it, and have to back down at some point. And sometimes you put in just the minor charge as a holding pattern, just to like lock the guy into place, come back with a little bit more, which to some degree they were able to do in this case. But yeah, I think it had a lot to do with the fact that they took a second look at it. They went back, and you've got to beef up the probable cause with some language that explains it. Now, at this point, it doesn't make a lot of difference. However, when you get to, if somebody is found guilty, the sentencing phase, then that's when a judge takes a look at aggravating factors such as the age of the victim. The age of the victim at this point doesn't make any difference, but if there's a conviction, age of the victim, that figures into the penalty phase, and that's where you go a little bit deeper into it. Felony 5, level 5 felony, 1 to 6 years in prison. Of course, that's never going to happen in this case. My guess is you get Jim Voiles on your side. His specialty is taking people who are facing charges and working out a plea agreement, which would eventually someday be appropriate in this case, assuming the facts hold up. What's interesting is Mark Sanchez faces 2 bodily assault with serious injury charges, but one is a misdemeanor, one is now a felony. My guess is a year from now, when all this works out, the public intox goes away, the illegal entry into the cab of the truck goes away, the felony assault goes away. He ends up pleading guilty to the misdemeanor bodily injury assault, and ends up taking probably probation, don't come back and beat up anybody for 2 years in Indianapolis. And then we'll also take a look at some probably anger or alcohol management training.
This story really progressed over the weekend from it being Mark Sanchez stabbed to Mark Sanchez stabbed and arrested. Then Mark Sanchez charged with misdemeanor. Then Mark Sanchez charged with a felony. One thing people are asking that I see people are asking is, why has there not been a mugshot of Mark Sanchez? As my understanding is he was booked while he was still in the hospital.
Right. And never made they waived his initial hearing, which was supposed to be this morning on the misdemeanor charge. That became a moot point when yesterday it was announced we've now filed this as a felony, so that bumps it up to a different court, in a felony court, and Jim Voiles earns his money. What you do is he goes in there, he goes, okay, my client will waive his initial hearing, which means he doesn't have to walk into court in front of a bunch of TV cameras, and we'll take a look at the pretrial hearing. The next time we're all doing court is November 4th. That gives Jim Voiles and his team a month to talk to Mark Sanchez, figure out what their position, where they're at, and determine if Sanchez will be showing up in court on November 4th. My guess is if he hasn't already left, he's probably at Eskenazi Hospital. The man's been stabbed 3 times. That'll take the wind out of you. My guess is the minute he leaves, they will put him in a rented black SUV with tinted windows, drive him to the airport in a pair of sunglasses, put him on a plane to California, and say, don't talk to anybody.
He also did not talk to anybody on Sunday, where he was supposed to be on TV calling that Colts game. They had to bring somebody in. He's now being sued by Mr. Tolles here, along with his employer, Fox Corporation, are all being sued. So this just continues to escalate. I'm going to play some of the press conference yesterday because, as we talked about at the top of this show, this got really political. A lot of people making incorrect statements, people calling on the prosecutor to do something about this. The governor and the prosecutor have been going back and forth on X over the past day. But as you have everyone from us to NBC News to TMZ to the New York Post here trying to cover this story, this also forced the politicians and the prosecutor to be front and center on this one. You guys covered the press conference yesterday. For those of you who missed it, here's a bit of it yesterday around the 11 o'clock hour.
That's a ton of information to see.
Hang on as we cue up the exact right portion of this. This is the chief of police, Chris Bailey, and the prosecutor, Ryan Mears, getting ready to speak. Yesterday, we'll just play this clip and pick it up from right here.
Well, thank you for being here. I am Chris Bailey, the chief of the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department. Here with me today is Marion County Prosecutor Ryan Mears. Prosecutor Mears will provide a rundown of the facts as we know them at this time. And then after that, I'll come back up for some additional comments, and then we can answer some questions. Prosecutor?
Thank you, Chief. Once again, my name is Ryan Mears. I'm the Marion County Prosecutor here in Indianapolis, Indiana. And for those of you who are certainly familiar with how the criminal justice system works here in Indianapolis, on Saturday we were presented and submitted a probable cause affidavit from IMPD that kind of contained an initial outline of the allegations that occurred early Friday night, or late Friday night, early Saturday morning involving the defendant, Mark Sanchez. An initial probable cause affidavit was filed, and we made a preliminary charging determination based on that information. As is always the case, Chief and his team continued to work on this matter, continued to track down additional details for us, and really supplemented that probable cause affidavit. I cannot say enough good things about the work that took place at IMPD. There was a ton of information to sift through and gather. They did an excellent job of acquiring that information. And as a consequence of that effort, we received an amended or an additional probable cause affidavit this morning. Again, this is something that happens in virtually every case here in Marion County. And with that additional information, we have added more serious charges against Mr. Sanchez. At this point in time, we have filed a felony charge, a level 5 felony of battery involving serious bodily injury, which contains a penalty of 1 to 6 years. One of the things that I want to stress to everybody is that we are still in the early stages of this investigation. Chief and his team have a number of search warrants that are still outstanding. They're still tracking down additional information. This is by no means the end of this investigation. This by no means means that these are going to be the final charges that we move forward with. We could not have done this case and be in a position to make today's charging decision without the hard work of IMPD and people in the community who came forward with information and pointed us in the right direction. And we've gathered a ton of information. One of the challenges you have in a case like this is the fact that you are dealing with individuals who are receiving medical care, and that's obviously the most important thing, that individuals are treated appropriately. But once we were provided with additional information about the victim's current medical condition, it became clear to us that additional charges needed to be filed. There's a supporting probable cause affidavit which was filed with the court today, which outlines the additional information which we have received thanks to the effort of IMPD, and that's why we were able to file the charges. A couple of things just about this incident. You know, certainly the thing that stands out to us is this was a situation that did not need to occur. You have the allegations involve a 38-year-old man becoming involved in an altercation with a 69-year-old man who sustained significant and very severe injuries as a result of that altercation. The probable cause outlines kind of the initial nature of that dispute. We are literally talking about people fighting over a parking space, or a dispute about where people are parking, and it resulted in someone receiving just incredibly significant injuries. Where this incident took place was an area of the city which was very well covered by surveillance footage. There are multiple angles of surveillance footage which capture the events that occurred. And in addition, we had a number of civilian witnesses who came forward with provided information about what took place. For us, though, we need additional information, and Chief's team is working on that. And once we receive that additional information, additional charges might be appropriate to file. In a case like this, one of the things that you are considering is where people are coming from, where were people going, what were they doing, and then once individuals receive medical care, we're obviously very interested in what those medical records look like, because they can a lot of times give us greater insight into what was going on that day and potentially provide some information into an individual's state of mind. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Chief Bailey.
Thank you, Prosecutor. First and foremost, I want to say that my thoughts and prayers are with the victim in this case and his family as he is on the road to recovery. I also want to just express just how proud I am of the officers and detectives of this police department who, those early morning hours of Saturday, rushed in to provide medical care and find out what was going on, and then spent the next really 2 full days putting this case together to present to our partners at the Marion County Prosecutor's Office. All of them, including deputy prosecutors, including the prosecutor himself, worked all weekend nonstop to bring those initial charges. And as he said, we continued to work on this case to find additional information, additional evidence, and additional witnesses to make this case stronger. The professionalism that we saw from our teams is what makes this department one of the best in this city, one of the best in the country, and their commitment to our community and keeping downtown and every neighborhood in our city safe was evident. Downtown Indianapolis remains a safe and welcoming environment for the people that live here and the people that visit here. It remains one of our safest neighborhoods. To date, violent crime is down 5% in downtown. Property crime is down 11%. Overall crime is down 10%. And across our city, violent crime is down 21%. That is because of the hard work of all of our partners in the criminal justice system, including Prosecutor Mears and the work of our detectives, the work that we see from our Office of Public Health and Safety, and the work of our boots on the ground community-based organizations who every day are doing their part to make our city safe. But I want to be clear about this. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you do for a living. I don't care where you live. If you come into our city, commit violence, we will use all the tools at our disposal to hold you accountable. As we move forward, IMPD will continue to maintain our strong, visible presence in downtown on those high visibility, high traffic weekends at major events to make sure that our community is safe. And I continue to urge our community to respect one another. As the prosecutor said, this did not need to happen. It just did not. We need to recognize our differences, respect those differences, and deal with our conflict without resorting to violence, because it's just not worth it. I appreciate the cooperation of our community and the downtown residents and businesses who continue to support their police department, each other, and work with us to solve our problems. Thank you, and now we will take some questions.
Ryan Mears, Prosecutor Mears, are there any laws on the books that state that charges will be up based on maybe a victim's age, especially if this person was elderly?
So traditionally, that's more of a statutory aggravator as it relates to sentencing. And so one of the things that the court can consider when they're trying to impose a sentence, as I mentioned, this is a level 5 felony, 1 to 6 years. One of the statutory aggravators is the age of the victim, and certainly that is something that the judge can consider when they're imposing a sentence.
All right, they're giving some of the details that Max was sharing with us about the differences in what could change in those charges. If you want to see the entire press conference with the questions, including some of them from Russ, that's on our website, FOX59.com. As we get ready to wrap up, Russ, you were in that room. What did you make of that press conference?
They like to keep it short, so you have to bark in there to get some questions in. I asked if there was a blood alcohol content report. They said, well, that would be typically taken at the hospital. It'll be in the medical reports that someday we will eventually see. So perhaps we will determine someday if there was any level of intoxication or what was in Mr. Sanchez's blood at the time. What struck me then, and of course, and I listened to Chief Bailey there, I live downtown. Downtown is fine. I mean, there's a lot of people downtown, but if you know what you're doing, you're going to be okay. It's never going to be a pristine fairyland. So quit complaining. I live downtown. I'm fine. So that's what struck me about the chief. But the question that I asked is Mark Sanchez lucky to be alive today? And I'll bring that up and tell you why. Indiana is a constitutional carry state. There are a lot of people who legally get to carry guns for their own self-defense. We have seen in the past few years since the state legislature took off gun permits that there are more cases of self-defense shootings that are not prosecuted because folks have a legal right under self-defense statutes to be armed and to use whatever force necessary, including lethal force with a firearm, to defend themselves. Think of what this story would have been if that truck driver was legally armed because he's traversing around different places in the middle of the night. He doesn't know who he's going to run into. If instead of a knife, he had a gun, which he could legally have to defend himself with. And Mark Sanchez is lucky he's alive with 3 stab wounds and a chance to go to court and prove his innocence, because under Indiana state law, that truck driver could have been carrying a legally owned gun and could have legally defended himself up to including lethal force in that alley that night. Think about that.
I know that's part of what you guys are working on today. I do have to let you go so that y'all can get ready for today's story. And Max is actually from home right now because he's not even supposed to be at work. So thank you. What can we look forward to with the next part of this coverage from the both of you?
Max has done a good job in tracking down the victim of this assault. So, Max, that's what I'm going to work on today. Got any ideas for me?
Yeah, I think, Russ is going to probably get into that. The thing is, we weren't identifying the victim over the weekend at their request, but we obviously had his name and we were doing research on him. We found we'd actually spoken to this victim for a story. Our former colleague, Cordy Spinelli, who's doing great stuff up in Chicago now, but she had spoken to him for a story, I think about 4 years ago now in 2021, because he is the brother-in-law of a woman who was shot as she was a gas station clerk, and he and his wife had been advocating for a law I think that had something to do with increasing penalties for juvenile offenders, because it was a juvenile who had allegedly shot and severely injured his sister-in-law. So we had spoken with him before, so we have some history with him, and we learned quite a bit about him from his attorney last night. So should be interesting for Russ to dig into today.
All right. Full coverage on all of this on both CBS 4 and Fox 59 News today and through the week, and of course on Fox59.com. Hey, to the both of you, I can host a good show. I can anchor the news, I can host a show, I can push buttons, but I will tip my hat to the both of you and old Angela Ganode out there for all the hard work that you guys put in on this story. Some of the things you guys, I don't know, my brain isn't wired the same way as your guys' is. Like you, Max, to find the pictures. It's like, I didn't think of that. Like, this is not how my brain works. So, like, this is my lane. I'm glad to work with you guys with your expertise. And I saw somebody post in response to Angela saying that X is the journalist or whatever that phrase is, and that's nothing when you guys are doing what you do. And Russ, you're out there on the streets. You live there, you know the area, you know who to call. So, hat tip to all of you guys for your hard work on this one.
Thank you.
That's going to do it for this edition of Fox 59 Tonight. Again, full coverage remains online all the time at fox59.com. I'll talk to you Sunday morning on my radio show Open Lines on 106.7 WTLC and on Hot 100.9. Max will see you on the weekend news on CBS 4. And Russ, you'll see him tonight on Fox 59 News at 4, 5, 6, and 7. Good night.